Alright, this is a audio response, technically video, it's on YouTube, response to the to Zybak on the video Shapeshifting Nerf. You can do something about it. Now, yeah, I also agree that this Shapeshifting Nerf is just fucking retarded. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, it doesn't make it. They're just sitting there one day, and they're like, okay, bleed's too strong. So we're like, okay, bleed's too strong. I'm willing to accept that. That's fine, So they go ahead and transfer all of the, bleed damage to, melee damage, which will actually, got to be there to hit the guy, which I completely agree because, I was up to a point where I'm setting bleeds and just walking away, and it was perfectly fine. Which, in my idea, it's just broken. Period. Okay. Now, okay, that they did that, and then they're like, oh, well, druids can't be controlled by anyone. So they're like, let's take away Berserk, So they took away Berserk from, being able to just... Which, again, I completely agree on that. Because you used to be able to just throw that thing. In my opinion, you throw that thing and you just sit on a freaking Warlock and it's just over. I mean, he can't do nothing. I mean, maybe decent Warlocks will actually wait out the fear, or wait out the Berserk, I'm sorry, and, fear you when it needs to be happen, but for the most part, I just face roll all the way. I can understand that. But then somewhere along the line, somebody playing a mage, some dev is like, oh, somebody's beating a mage, look out, because it's just like, this doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, okay, you already moved all of our abilities, all our main damage, to abilities we have to be on the target to use. And now all of a sudden you're going to nerf our ability to be on the target. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm looking at the changes right now, and it's just like, just over time, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, in my honest opinion, if they redid, they called back the bleed nerfs and just left most of our damage on bleeds, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But, in its current state, it's just a stupid idea. I mean, why would you do that? Because now, it's like, the thing that really bothers me about it is that they didn't go, okay, Pharaohs are breaking too much roots, so we need to nerf that back a little bit. They went, okay, Pharaoh's breaking too much roots, let me just flip this freaking switch all the way over and make it where they can't break any roots at all. I mean, this is total bullshit to me. It's just like, really, mage control in the game is just retarded. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, they honestly, as a feral facing frost, you have, they throw that first deep freeze, you gotta trinket that shit or you're dead. Alright? So they have 30-second cooldown on that deep freeze, okay? If you don't beat them within 30 seconds, your ass is gone, because it only takes, one mage you on a deep freeze to just destroy your ass. It doesn't even make any sense. Now, I mean, it just, it seems like, warriors got a nerf because of their mobility, and I can't help but think that's for, I used to fight against it so much because I just so didn't want to believe that, it had to do with frost mages. I was like, I was talking to people on the forums, I was like, they're not like that. Why would they favor one class over another? But then they did the shapeshift nerf, and it's like, okay, they just nerfed warriors intercept, which helped their mobility against mages, and now they're nerfing shapeshift, and then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna nerf, mages. Mages are gonna, their control is gonna take a hit. And the extent of this nerf? Okay, let's see. We got Ring of Frost, shrunk to 8 yards, which apparently matches the freaking graphic anyway, and makes you you're immune to being refrozen, for 3 seconds after you're frozen. Whoa, holy crap. I mean, they still have 5,000 fucking roots that are just gonna, destroy you. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand it. I mean, I honestly was a, person I thought had common sense, was like, no way, there's no way devs run a mage, and that's why they're nerfing shit. But after the, warrior nerf, I was like, oh, okay, maybe they just had too much mobility against hunters, whatever. But then feral is like the only spec left that destroys mages. There's the only spec. That's it. That's all. And they get nerfed suddenly. And this whole thing about the really thing that bothers me, another thing that bothers me, is they go, oh, well, we're trying to get rid of hard counters on classes. And it's like, really? Really? Because paladin versus mage, rep paladin versus mage is obviously a priority for you, isn't it? Because that is ridiculous. Okay? Freaking facing, coming from a paladin, okay? Paladin since BC. Freaking mages can face roll that spell still all day long. It just destroys ret. I mean, you don't even stand a chance. So it's just like one of these things where it's like, just doesn't make sense. Like I said, I personally want to believe in my mind that Blizzard doesn't favor one class over another, but over Wraths, the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and beginning of Cataclysm here, mages are just, I just don't understand it. It seems like they just roll a mage, they want mage to make sure they have no counters, and that's where it lies, I got a 65 mage, and I'm trying so hard not to fight, trying not to fall into that category like, well, maybe I should just roll a mage, but, it's just so hard not to fall into that, I mean, I've been considering re-rolling feral since I've seen that change, and I'm still up in the air about it, but it is rough. That is ridiculous. And also, they're saying that feral, doesn't need anybody because of that shapeshift, and all it's doing is securing the fact that you'll need a healer in arena. I would not be surprised if double DPS dies. You wouldn't be able to run a double DPS team because you can't cleanse any roots. Roots are the end all be all because you can no longer clear magic effects, which is pretty much roots. There's just there's no way you can do it. So I don't know, man. I completely agree with you. It's a bullshit move. On the last note, Blizzard generally doesn't read class forms, so if you really want to get your form out in the open, I would recommend posting in the damage dealing forms, because that seems to be the central location for most damage dealing, even if it's dealing with PvP stuff, and that's where Blizzard will really see your thread. So I know somebody did link your thread before. I don't know if it actually got any responses or not. But I definitely say, link it there, see if it gets any more, official responses. So, alright, man, just want to say, big fan of your videos, man. Just keep up awesome videos. So, alright, later.